From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
You want to go where to buy a new refrigerator? Steve's A to Z Appliance in Cottonwood? In Cottonwood? Just a 10-minute drive. And they'll save us money. New and used, honest, reliable, factory-trained repair service and parts, and they'll save us money. And dispose of this thing? We gotta make the short drive to Steve's A to Z. Thanks, hon.
Steve's A to Z Appliance, front and main streets in Cottonwood. Drive a little, save a lot.
Well, good morning, everyone. Looks like we are looking at a dry and mild day out there today. So I guess you could call it the calm before the storm, because as we all know, what we're all tracking here is a potential for some low elevation snow and a high impact storm, really, starting mainly Thursday, Friday, and then of course lingering on into your Saturday as well. We'll get into all of that here in a bit, but we do have the showers returning as early as Wednesday, especially for the coast, and then later in the day and the evening for the valley eastward. Snow levels dropping, especially for your Friday and Saturday. I think that biggest impacts will be Friday. And then some of that kind of into Thursday as well. But Thursday is when we start to see the snow levels dropping. They drop to their lowest around Friday into Saturday. And then, of course, by Saturday into Sunday, things kind of starting to taper off a bit. Travel delays, too. We're talking about high impact snow here. A lot of snow in some of the lower elevation communities, right? A lot of snow. And of course, that's going to mean chain requirements and with the potential for some road closures as well. I mean, there's a lot to really pay attention to here as we get closer to the weekend. Looking at your forecast for today, of course, we are looking at mainly sunny skies. I think the valley could see some sunshine and maybe some patchy frost this morning as we get closer to sunrise. But overall, we're just looking at temperatures. You know, they're not going to be as warm as they were over the weekend, but at least we're still looking at some fairly mild temperatures out there. Looking at the North Coast, dry conditions here as well, not to mention inland and Trinity County. So everyone's going to be dry across the board. But by tomorrow, we start to see some of those changes. So here is what I'm watching for Thursday through Saturday. Now, of course, as I mentioned, this may linger on into Sunday, but the main event will be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Heavy snow above 3,000 feet. So this is what I was talking about with some of the lower elevation communities. Heavy snow is a very good possibility for places like Shingletown. We head out towards Bernie with the potential for some heavy snow. Places like Weaverville, Hayfork, you're kind of in that borderline of moderate to heavy snow. Places like Mount Shasta City could get high impacts from this with a heavy amount of snow as well. Not to mention places like Alturas. As you start heading off to the north and east, we start seeing less of that snow, but still snow nonetheless. Now, as I mentioned, travel delays with possible closures Friday and possibly even into Saturday. But again, we're seeing impacts as early as Thursday, but snow levels not quite as low to start off on Thursday. And then, you know, to add insult to injury, it's not just the snow we've got to contend with. We've got to deal with the gusty winds, too. The storm system is going to pack a punch in the wind department as well. 50, 60 mile an hour gusts are a very good possibility for everyone. Now, I think places like the valley quite closer to 40 to 50, but you get the idea. Blowing snow is a concern, too, on top of that. And, of course, power outages. We can't forget about that. So let's take a look at the storm timeline here, okay? We start with Thursday. This is what I call higher impact, right? We're looking at the winds picking up as early as Wednesday, really, Wednesday evening into Thursday. So the main impact and the highest impact will be in the form of those gusty winds. Now, snow levels will start off probably around 4,000, 4,500 feet, dropping through the day on Thursday into Thursday night. Now, Friday, we've got more rain, we've got more snow, and heavy snow at that, and gusty winds continue. Now, this is when I expect it to be quite possibly even in a higher impact, because now we're looking at snow levels between 2,000 and 3,000 feet. They're lowering through the day on Friday, right? Then we go into Saturday. Now, we're looking at more rain, snow, and wind. However, the gusts, I've got them around 30 to 50 miles per hour, but quite honestly, they may actually be a little bit lower than that. So I'm going to call it a moderate impact. The winds still gusty, probably not as strong, snow levels between 1 and 2,000 feet, but now we're seeing less in the way of precipitation on Saturday. And then Sunday is kind of things really starting to wrap up, but there still may be a few flurries over some of the higher elevations. And really, because the amount of snow is expected to be so heavy, especially on Friday, the impacts will be felt into Saturday, even though we're going to see less in the way of precipitation. All right, so let's take a look at the satellite image here. The overall setup right now is just some of that cooler air is in place, but fairly dry at this point, right? It's up to our north that we've got our eyes on. That's the colder storm system. So here's the area of low pressure. Here is what we call a trough of low pressure. So the colder air, this Arctic air coming in from the Gulf of Alaska and really coming up from the north from the Arctic, right? That colder air is going to be slowly migrating in our direction here over the next few days. Now by Thursday, we still have the main area of low pressure well off to our north and west, but we're beginning to feel the impacts of the storm. You see the flow with the jet stream is helping to bring in that instability, and not to mention the showers and the rain that we will see on Thursday. But also, you see these lines, these are what we call isobars. When they're tightly packed like that, what that does is it gives us very gusty winds in the forecast. And that's where we're seeing those gusts possibly upwards of 50, even 60 miles per hour. Now the colder air moves in even closer. So this is when snow levels begin to drop, is on Friday. The area of low pressure moving closer to us, the colder air moving closer as well. Now that colder air will be overhead by the time we get into Saturday. But look where the area of low pressure is. Now we're getting into kind of less instability with the area of low pressure. What I mean by that is, take this trough of low pressure here, is what we call the axis right here. The east side, right here, is where we have the most amount of instability. That's where we're going to be on Thursday and Friday, is this area of instability. But notice on Saturday that pushes eastward, so the most amount of instability is now to our east. Now that doesn't mean we won't see any rain or snow on Saturday, because we will. It just will be less impactful. But that being said, we're still looking at that cold air really moving in. And then by Sunday, that's pretty much out of here. Now this colder air here will probably impact us early next week, but not to the same extent as this storm system. Now we look at the temperature outlook, and yeah, we're keeping those temperatures below normal. So even after this storm passes, the colder air is going to be in place. And it's going to be quite chilly out there through next week, and not to mention those lower snow levels. All right, so let's take a look at Futurecast and kind of walk you through the timing. Today, again, the calm before the storm should be a good day to really get out and prepare and get things done that you need to get done outside. Because starting tomorrow, the winds are picking up, and so is the chance for rain. However, you head into the valley eastward. First half of the day should be dry, but by noon tomorrow, we're beginning to see the first signs of the storm pushing in. Okay, then we go into Wednesday, 5 p.m. Now we're seeing the rain off to the north and to the east, but see how light it is. This is going to be not felt very much. You might see some sprinkles in the valley, even to the north, but it's not very heavy. But snow levels between 4,000 and 4,500 feet. Now we're beginning to see the impacts a lot more by the time we get into Wednesday night and Thursday morning. So Thursday morning, 5 a.m., we're seeing that heavy band of rain. Snow, if you'll notice here, here's I-5. We're not seeing any snow on I-5. So this is why I've got snow levels around 4,000 to 4,500 feet as we go into Thursday morning. This pushes eastward. Now we're seeing the heavier rainfall approaching the valley. But by Thursday afternoon, that's when that rain starts getting heavier in the valley, with snow levels still around 4,000, 4,500 feet. But they'll start to lower as we go into Thursday night and into Friday. All right, so let's take a look at the long-range forecast. And there you can see as we go into your Friday. Now look what happens. We have kind of a disturbance rotating around the area of low pressure that's going to help to squeeze out that moisture. So this is when we start to see the gusty winds again on Friday. We're looking at heavy rainfall at times on Friday, especially in the valley, and snow levels are beginning to drop, probably somewhere around 2,000 feet, give or take. All right. So we're still not we're still not seeing the potential for snow in the valley on Friday. All right. It's going to be mainly above 2,000 feet at this point. Now watch what happens on Saturday. Remember I was mentioning the area of low pressure is now to our north, and we're looking at that trough axis right here. This is where the most amount of instability is. We're seeing less of that. So you see what's happening here. We're seeing less in the way of precipitation. okay, on Saturday. But the colder air is in place, and this is when we could see the best potential for snow in the valley, probably sometime around Friday night and into Saturday morning, even Saturday afternoon. Now, when I say the valley, I'm talking mainly the north end of the valley, say around Cottonwood, Anderson, northward, and even Cottonwood, Anderson may be a bit of a stretch. Red Bluff, most likely in the form of rain, but again, Mother Nature always has a way of surprising us. Chico, most likely all in the form of rain. And I think I saw a comment yesterday from someone in Oroville, snow in Oroville. Probably not. But Paradise? Yeah, I think Paradise could see some snow out of this. But again, look how we're seeing, it's not very heavy snow and it's not very heavy rain at this point. So again, the heaviest snow is expected to be, in the higher elevations, is expected to be Thursday and Friday, not as heavy by Saturday. Now Sunday, look at this, Sunday, we're looking at most of the activity out of here, but just still a little bit of instability out there. We could see some more snow flurries in the higher elevations on Sunday. And then Monday, Tuesday of next week, yeah, we got a couple of disturbances passing up to our north, but really not seeing a very big impact from those storms early next week. So we're watching it closely, looking at the forecast rain totals. And boy, I tell you what, I'm not liking this number that I see here. I think it's going to be higher than that, but I think on average we're going to be looking at about an inch for most of us in the valley, give or take. Probably more to the north and less to the south, as you cannot see here. But really, the bigger impact on that rain is going to be along the coast. That's where we're going to see the heaviest amount of rainfall out of this. Let's talk about the winter weather alerts. Now, the timing of all of these are going to be different. You get the idea, though, when the highest impact is going to be with the snow, right? We're talking about Thursday above 3,500 feet or so, really above 4,000 feet. Then as we go into Saturday, heaviest snow will be 3,000 feet and higher, but we are seeing the potential for light accumulations around 2,000 feet on Friday. And then, of course, Saturday, as I mentioned, things are kind of wrapping themselves up here. So these times are all going to be changing here. And it'll be transitioning from a winter storm watch to maybe a winter weather advisory. And then eventually we will start to see more of a winter storm warning for all the areas that you see here. I want you to take note. There is no winter storm watch or advisory for the coast. Now, what this forecast model is going to show, this is number one, this is not an official forecast. This is looking at the GFS forecast model, and it tends to I don't typically show this map. I don't like to show it, even the European forecast model, because when we start going out 4 or 5 days with snow, it's just not a reliable source. But what I want to point out is what we've all been seeing here in the forecast community. And that is for the last, several days, we've been seeing this far out as we go through the weekend, the potential for some heavy snow. And we are expecting heavy snow in the mountains above 3,000 feet. Are we going to be looking at 30 to 40 inches of snow in Mount Shasta City? No, I don't think that's going to be the case. Are we going to see 8 to 12 inches in Alturas? Probably not that much. We are seeing less snow in the forecast off to the north and east, as we typically see less in the way of precipitation in general. But we are seeing heavy snow down to the south. But it is showing 8 to 12 inches of snow in Eureka. This is again why I'm putting in here not an official forecast, because we're not going to see a foot of snow in Eureka. All right. So, and again, you see how it's showing maybe even a mix out towards places like Chico and Red Bluff. Red Bluff not out of the question, not out of the question for Redding to maybe even see some light accumulation. Not out of the question, but it's not something that I'm putting in the forecast just yet. I'm calling it at best right now for Redding a mix. All right. Actually, when I was getting up this morning looking at the latest forecast model data, I've been kind of seeing the overall trend backing down a bit on just how low those snow levels will get, but we'll see. Now let's switch gears and talk about the winds. All right, this is what I was talking about, insult to injury now, because now we're looking at a high wind watch through Thursday. Now, Wednesday night through Thursday. This is not including the winds we're going to see on Friday and quite possibly even into Saturday. So we're just looking at the next couple of days, of course, right, as we go into tomorrow and Thursday. So these are the areas we're going to see some of the strongest winds. But I tell you what, I can tell you right now, as I'm recording this in the morning, I'm anticipating that we're going to start to see more areas covering this, the high wind watch or maybe even an advisory. Okay, so just kind of be aware of that, because look at the forecast wind gusts. Now today it's not a problem. It's not even going to be all that breezy out, but look what happens as we go through the day on Wednesday. Here's Wednesday at noon. The wind's beginning to pick up for the coast, and even many other areas are beginning to see at least the winds ramping up a little bit. Then we go into Wednesday night into Thursday morning. So here's midnight, Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Look at these gusts, close to 50 miles per hour already, but the winds are gusty pretty much everywhere. Just strongest right now at this point on the coast. And then we go into Thursday in the morning. Now we're seeing very strong winds for the valley, and not to mention to the east. So again, this is what I was talking about. There's a very good chance we may start to see some advisories pop up here through the morning hours into the afternoon here for the valley and pretty much everyone else, because everyone's going to be impacted by these winds here as we go into Wednesday and Thursday in particular. I brought this map out. I wanted to talk to you about winter forecast timeline, because when you start looking at 6 to 8 days out, this is when we got to start paying attention. If we see a trend that we've seen the last few days and we're out 6 to 8 days, we say, all right, let's start observing for patterns for this system that could potentially impact us. But we don't need to take it too seriously just yet, but we need to kind of think about it. And this is where we were over this past weekend. We were just paying attention. Then as we go to 4 to 5 days out, we're like, all right, we're starting to see some consistency. Let's start looking for that. The confidence begins to increase when we start seeing more consistency in those long-range forecast models. Does the setup make sense? We look at it all and we go, does this make sense? Is it the time of the year? We look at climate data and we go, all right, yeah, this maybe makes sense. So 4 to 5 days, we're saying, all right, we're going to start looking for consistency. Now, as we get 2 to 3 days out, this is where we really start getting a better idea and can really start pinpointing, the potential for totals, how strong those winds will be, the timing, the location, all of that. This is when we need to start getting prepared for the potential of a strong storm. As we go 0 to 1 days out, this is when you have the call to action. Know the specifics for your area. Are you in an area where we're expected to see heavy snow? Are you going to an area that's expected to see heavy snow? Make sure that you've got your cell phones charged if we're expecting power outages. Make sure you have all of the things that you need for these types of storms as we go, 1 to days out. So again, I just want to kind of give you that timeline of things to pay attention to when we start getting to these and start talking about these storms. Wave heights for today, about 9 feet. They drop tonight. But then you can see as we go into Wednesday, as the storm approaches, those wave heights may begin to increase again. Now, there is a small correct advisory this morning that should be allowed to expire later on this morning. Let's take a look at your Trinity County neighborhood forecast. Temperatures in the low to mid 50s. I've got showers coming in for you as early as tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, and of course, everything we've been talking about here for the last, I don't know how many minutes. There's a lot of them. But take a look at the North Coast forecast. Temperatures in the low 50s take you up north. 52 degrees for Smith River, 50 out in Gas Key. And there's Hoopa with a high of about 51. Here's your Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast. You can see about 49 degrees for Happy Camp, 41 for Tennant today. So again, today's the calm before the storm. And for places like Modoc County today and tomorrow, is the calm before the storm, because it's really not until Wednesday night into Thursday that the eastern mountains in Modoc County will be impacted by this storm. 48 for Chester, 43 degrees for Westwood, and 50 out in Greenville. Take you out to the Valley neighborhood forecast, brought to you by Haas Farms. Well, there you can see those temperatures in the low 60s. Not much change temperature-wise from what we saw yesterday. In fact, we may even see a little bit more sunshine. 57 degrees for Whiskeytown, 58 for Lakehead, and Palisadro about 61 degrees. So let's take a look at your 7-day outlook, and there's a lot to unpack here, so let's talk about it. Here we are on Tuesday today. It's dry for everyone across the board. By tomorrow, the coast seeing showers as early as the morning hours, and then of course through the day. By afternoon, evening, Redding, Valley, all seeing that chance for showers, not to mention Siskiyou County. I think Eastern Mountains, Modoc County will be dry all day Wednesday, or most of the day on Wednesday. Thursday, that's when we start to see the wind pick up. That's when the rain begins to pick up in intensity. Friday, gusty winds, rain in intensity, but still snow levels above the valley on Thursday and Friday. By Friday night into Saturday, we're talking about the potential for a mix in Redding, maybe as far south as Red Bluff at best. okay? I think Red Bluff most likely at this point will mainly be in the form of rain, but only time will tell at this point. Sunday, things are wrapping up, but we still have the potential for a mix in Redding, and not to mention, of course, the snow. But it's not going to be a ton of snow Sunday, okay? Things are wrapping up on Sunday. And then by Monday, we should finally dry things out.